Welcome back into the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta, and we're a Minnesota sports podcast. If you're a Minnesota sports fan or just a sports fan in general, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like to help spread the word to other sports fans. And today we're going to be talking about Minnesota Timberwolves draft targets as we're within 2 weeks of the draft here. We figured we'd just break down a couple different prospects, one specifically today, but going forward as well, we'll break down a couple more and just talk about guys the Timberwolves could realistically pick in this year's NBA draft, guys that could potentially help out the team right away. So the Timberwolves are picking at pick 19 in the first round. They also have 3 second-round picks, which I doubt they'll use all 3. So let's dive into it, though, Liberta. I think both you and I agree on this one that this is probably be our preferred player out of anybody in this draft based on where we're picking. Duke center Mark Williams. Now, I mean, as you've mentioned before, and we've kind of talked about as well, he's been kind of rising up draft boards a little bit. There's probably not a great chance he makes it all the way down to 19 because there are some teams in front of us that could use some center help. The Charlotte Hornets are one that comes to mind specifically. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about Mark Williams, Liberta. What makes him so unique? What makes him, a good fit for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Yeah, like you said, I think this is a great player for us to start with. This is our number one most ideal, somewhat realistic draft target for the Wolves. And I think what makes Mark Williams special compared to all these other prospects that you look at in the mid to, I guess, later first round for us and where we're sitting right now, assuming we don't trade up, I think it's just his size, both literally and figuratively fills a hole on our team because it's like we hammered home during all of last season that it was like Cat and nobody else. So it's like, because even Nas is quite an undersized backup center. So truthfully, it was just not a lot of size going around. We're the smallest team in the NBA. So to add Mark Williams would be huge. He's got a nice, he's 7'2". He's got the nice wide wingspan. He has the longest standing reach among all draft prospects by over 4 inches, next closest. So, I mean, this guy's got all the size in the world. He's got all the athletic ability just because he can cover a lot of ground. I mean, obviously, rim protector is number one, but he can also play with guards a little bit. He's not a total liability doing that. I know some centers can be that way. And then he also averaged nearly 3 blocks a game as the ACC Defensive Player of the Year last year. He also even chips in a little bit offensively. He averaged a little over 11 points a game in just 23 minutes a game. And then he had 7.5 rebounds a game as well. I mean, this guy can do a little bit of everything. He's a 73% free shooter, which actually is pretty solid, especially for a big man.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, this guy, I was about to quote Michael Jordan there, the ceiling is the roof, but the sky's the limit for this guy. I'd say that, I mean, he can do it all. I think he's just what we need to come off the bench. Maybe he could start someday for us, but I think he'd be the perfect complement to Cat. He's rim runner offensively, so I think that could help us too. It's just we need the size, and quite frankly, he's one of the best big men in this draft. So I think that's what makes me most excited about him. And then coming from Coach K, obviously he's come from a great program.
Yeah, and I think he's the ideal player to slide into a backup role, but could also eventually, get good enough to be able to potentially play beside Cat. Because I think it could really help out Cat to have just a massive center playing next to him. I mean, you mentioned 7'2", longest standing reach in the entire draft. I mean, the Wolves don't have anyone close to that. Cat is 7 foot if he's lucky. I'd say he's probably like 6'11". People think Jaden McDaniels is actually the tallest player on the team, but it's like, we need more size. We need more, brawn, if you will. Like we need just a big, strong center. And Mark Williams fits that profile. He's a shot blocker. And, he's not going to be the type of player that's going to, command being a starter and playing 30 to 35 minutes a night. Like you're not going to get that out of Mark Williams. You just need him to play 10 to 15 minutes a night maybe. And, you still have Naz Reid who can find some time too, but like you mentioned, he's kind of undersized, and this is kind of where they need to make their determination. If you're going to keep Vando in the starting lineup, then you maybe need to think about having Naz Reid be the power forward off the bench and finding a center like Mark Williams. I don't know if Naz really has the power forward skill set, and it might be kind of an awkward fit. You can always trade him too, because I'm sure he's got some trade value because he is a good backup, but it's just, is he a power forward? Is he a center? He's not really big enough to be a center. He's not really skilled enough to be a power forward, although he can shoot and he's a decent ball handler. So I'll give him that. But going back to Mark Williams, though, yeah, this is just I remember watching him in March Madness. The dude was just, stuffing people left and right. I can't remember if it was the first or second round game. He started off with like the team's first 6 or 8 points or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was just kind of flying around. He looks like an energy guy, and yeah, the main thing is he's a solid defender, and he's not the most skilled offensive player, but we don't need him to be because we have plenty of skilled offensive players. So I agree with you. I do think this is a really good fit, and yeah, I don't think he'll make it to 19. Kind of like you're skeptical of that as well. But we do have 3 second round picks, and you're not going to use all of them, and you're not going to stash all these guys in Iowa or whatever. So I know Tim Connolly's kind of got a track record of drafting guys from overseas, letting them play overseas for a year or two, and then bringing them over here. So there's that potential as well. But I don't know, man. I think it'd be a good idea to get somebody that can contribute right away because there is that value still at 19. I mean, Jaden McDaniels was drafted. When was he drafted? Like 28 or something like that. He was drafted late in the first.
I think so. Yeah, I want to say it was like 28.
Now that doesn't happen super often where you can find a player that late in the first to contribute, but I mean Mark Williams at 19 would be a steal. I would package a couple seconds and maybe like a Leandro Bolmero or even a Naz Reid to move up and go get Mark Williams. So they definitely have some options out there. So I guess do you have any other thoughts here on Mark Williams and how he'd fit with the Wolves?
Yeah, I think we should be aggressive in this pursuit, really moving up the board as far as we need to, because I don't think we have to move up too much higher than probably the late lottery. So, like moving up, I'd say a handful of spots, 5, 6, something like that. And then you're right there, right in his range, which would be great. And kind of adding on to the way he'd fit on this team a little bit more. Like, I think we are missing that rim protector, surely, because we don't really have the size for it. But it's like Jay McDaniels is probably one of our best rim protectors last year. I probably think that shouldn't be the case. So really, if you can plug Mark Williams in there to be the great defensive player that he is, then he could still fill what Naz does offensively in some regards because he's actually an excellent pick and roll player. So if you plan on keeping D'Lo around, again, going with the same kind of rotations next year with having D'Lo rotate in with the bench, I think D'Lo and Mark Williams could form a pretty nice pick and roll game, which would be sweet. So the only thing be missing with Williams is just when have a perimeter shot, but truth be told, I don't love when we have Naz chucking up threes to begin with. So like I can live with that. And then Mark Williams, even time to time, if you leave him wide open, he can hit mid-range shots too. So I think it's got all the makings of a great addition to this roster, and then especially at a cheap price tag.
Heck yeah, man. Sign me up for Mark Williams. I think, Jalen Duren, I think, is probably the only like true center that's better than Mark Williams in this draft. But I don't know, man. I love the size. I love the athleticism, and I love the defense. The defense is the main thing, the rim protection. I just think that makes this Timberwolves team that much more difficult. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But if they could get Mark Williams, I would be, I'd give that draft an A+ because, we finally have the foundation set. We have our core. We even have some really solid role players that you'd like to see stick around for a while. So now it's just all about adding supplemental pieces to help make this team better. And a big, strong center like Mark Williams is definitely something that can make this team better because I don't really know if you'll be able to find, a center like that in free agency this season. So
totally agree. Yeah. And I think everybody out there should get out and watch his highlight videos at Duke. I think, especially in the sophomore season, like dude was a beast. He had some nasty swats at guys, just no regard in the paint.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a stud. So it'd be great to have him on the Timberwolves. It'd be great to just have another big man. So it's not just Cat out there on an island. So
exactly.
But yeah, that will do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like Liberta mentioned, please go watch some Mark Williams highlights videos and jump on the bandwagon because he could be the next Timberwolves draftee. So that will do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I mentioned earlier, please click the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram and let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think of Mark Williams? Do you think he could be a fit here? Do you think it's even realistic that the Timberwolves could draft him? And maybe some other players that you'd like us to touch on as well before the draft approaches. So until next time, thanks for watching.